Okay, so today I'm going to read from Allergies and Aversion, and I'm going to read on wheat because most people, we have dairy, and then we have the wheat. So I want to read to you guys psychologically how wheat shows up. And I'm going to use this word today because since Sunday, I finished an entire book, and the book is The Mastery of Self. So within getting to know who we are, rather than always projecting outside to the world, you see, we were perfectly brought here. There's nothing to fix. We got domesticated. In domestication, what ends up happening is that we start listening to how everybody wants us to. So therefore, when we're at that part where what everybody wants us to be, then we need to turn around and go back and find out, who am I? The ultimate question you will seek your entire life if you're constantly searching, or you can actually start the journaling process, but only on the aspect of who am I? So in wheat, this is what the excerpt says that I got very intrigued in, that I started saying, I want to date her and see who she is, because when I was dealing with my secretory immunoglobulin A, which is SIgA in medical realm, I found out that wheat was not in my red zone, but it was actually in my highest yellow zone of being, an avoidance, which is something I've always known about myself. And this was interesting when I finally got the message to look in the book. What am I doing here? Is the big question that comes up underneath wheat. They are manifesting a dismayed discombobulation about the world and the way their life is going. It is the resultant of growing up in a vaguely overwhelmed and enmeshed family, or out of being here as a visitor from another soul's pool for soul expansion and the destiny manifestation of purposes. And that one was very, very, it really hit home for me. What am I doing here? Because I ask myself that question a lot. And today, that's why when I decided to come on, I would give you guys choice rather than projecting my opinion onto everyone else. So that's one of the things I want to shift and change. And so as we visit here on Earth and we navigate through what is brought here, our saliva is the biggest, it's throughout. If we think about it, it's going to be in our five senses, because it's going to be in our nose, it's going to be in our eyes, it's going to be in our inner ears, it's going to be in the mouth, the back of the throat, going down the esophagus. Let me share my screen because I did put it up here. So it's going to go into the stomach, it's going to go into the small intestines, and then the large intestines. So secretory immunoglobulin A is our antibody that protects against infection of the mucous membrane, the lining of the mouth, the airways, and the digestive tract. Is your first line of defense on a mucosal lining, and it makes up a majority of our entire immune system. So oftentimes, and I actually pulled out the probiotics. Here we go. The reason I pulled out the probiotics is because even in this article, they're going to go back and say that one probiotic is the actual one that we should be, using if you have this issue. And it is the first one on the back of our probiotic bottle. And it's a Saccharomyces boulardii, and it's the first one. So what will happen is if a medical doctor sees someone and is working in the functional medicine world, they will only recommend that one probiotic, because this is how the medical world works, even in functional medicine. The company with the test is going to tell them only a single product. Our whole product line is all based on formulas, which is not the way in which the medical realm works. Does everybody truly understand that from just the standpoint of what is? Y'all can either put something in the chat, or because I really would like you to, me to know that you guys are really truly understanding that there is a literal protocol written, and if they have this, then this is the only product they have to be on. You see, what makes me different a lot of the times is I know our ingredient line, and I say, well, if you look at this product, it's in there. If you look at this product, it's in there. If you look at this product, it's in there. Does everybody understand that, or do I need to, clarify that in a better part? Okay, so, and does everybody 100% understand that SIgA is literally saliva, and it comes in through and look, the particles that the saliva has to deal with is our nose. So all these people without, oh, but I have all these allergies. Guess what? Guess who has to deal with it? Saliva. Am I really making this like, I'm calling it, the 0.08 class versus the 500 level class. So saliva has to be in the small intestines, the large intestines, in the vagina, in the colon, in the ears, in the everywhere that we are talking about. And so when we look at what happens, extraordinary amounts of immunoglobulin A are produced in the intestinal mucosis daily. It is as in SIgA and is secreted into the human gastrointestinal tract. SIgA production is driven largely in response to mucosal antigens, bugs, or foods. If you get bit by a bunch of mosquitoes, have you just picked up a bug? If you brought in a food that had a bug on it, did you just pick up a bug that the saliva has to deal with? Encountering the gut-associated lymphoid tissue, which they call GALT. I remember when Allison Caldwell talked about GALT and all of the lymph nodes that has to deal with all of our secretions, any type of secretion. It is clear that secretory immunoglobulin antibodies are directed against the last two broad classes of antigens. The first associated with the incentric pathogens. So a pathogen is just something that the body is going up against. So the bad guys are the infection, a virus, a bacteria, anything that the body's having to deal with to bring it back to balance. We always want to go back to balance. And their virulence factors are the things that bugs secrete, like toxins. So if a tick bite, a mosquito bite, a wasp, what else bites us around here? I mean, we get all kinds of bites. The other day I was moving bricks and a spider was on me. It could have bit me. guess what? Soul flex to the rescue immediately, and absolutely zero redness, anything like that happens afterwards. SIgA helps to shape the composition of the microbes in the gut. So it's going to go into your intestinal mucosas daily. It's all secreted, and the response is going to be how that secretion of saliva has to be produced according to the good and the bad bacteria that exist within that saliva. The second broad class of antigens recognized by SIgA is associated to intestinal microbes or commensal microflora, the good guys. So we're talking about bad and good bacteria right now, but I'm showing it to you from the science standpoint and then bringing it down to the concept of what it actually means. In experimental animal models, commensal bacteria are potent induced to secretory antibodies in humans. It is estimated that between 25 and 75% of intestinal bacteria is coated with SIgA. So anywhere from 25 to 75%. Why can it be so low? Because a woman who doesn't have vaginal fluids coming out anymore to lubricate the vaginal area is going to have a lesser percentage of that secretion. This could explain why one of the most basic ways to improve levels of SIgA is to give and they literally say it, patented probiotics and Saccharomyces boulardii. Yes, I understand. It seems simple in the mind in the process, only going with the one suggestion. Okay. So when we look at the profound role, this is going to go back into, as we age, it starts to decline. The more we have surgeries, it starts to decline. The more we take prescription drugs, it starts to decline. The more we stress. Do y'all know stress is the #1 cause of the immunoglobulin A to not be in balance in its good and bad bacteria? That is the #1. So it's going to go back to food proteins. So in other words, if you're not digesting wheat and it stays within that mucosal membrane, it has to up the amount of good bacteria in order to deal with that wheat that's not being digested or getting out of the body in a 12-hour period of time. We have parasites, which goes back to our phase 3, our all-cell nutrition pack, our fungi, which goes back to our phase 3, our all-cell nutrition pack, toxins and viruses. That's why I turn around and I bring in phase 1 and phase 2, meaning that Bella health and good vibrations, and intermesh them in order for a person's body to get ready for phase 3. And then the SIgA antibodies prevent microorganisms, food proteins, and cancer-causing substances from binding, guys, to the surface of the absorptive cells. Effectively, they attach themselves to invading bugs and trap them in the mucus to prevent them from going anywhere. But guess what? If it traps it, the mucus starts increasing. So that's why a person with ALS will have a lot of saliva, or people who have more saliva. The body is actually trying to work on breaking that down. Okay, that's what's actually trying to happen. Let's see. That's where we go into all what we call leaky gut, the Crohn's, the colitis, the celiacs, all the different types of gut syndrome issues that we have going on. The fact is becoming increasingly evident that human health is inextractability linked to the gut microbes, intestinal homeostasis. Homeostasis means balance, and the mucosal immunity, IgA, at the center of this dynamics. This is literally the center of that dynamics. So testing SIgA, I want to show, let me stop sharing and get to another page. I'm going to actually show you guys a couple of, let me see. I think I had it right here. Okay. I think it's on another page. Yeah. Okay. So this is actually a saliva test that I actually do. And this is one of the clients. I only pulled like the ones I did in June and July. And when I go to the secretory immunoglobulin A, you see how it says lower than 5? That's all how it measures. The borderline is 5 to 9. Normal is 10 to 20. And borderline high would be 25 to 25, 21 to 25. You see how normal would be 10 to 20, and this person isn't even at 5. Let me show you another client. And here we are. One of them is actually 20 years old, and the other one actually is like in her 40s. And here you go. This one is low also. And then I want to show you on a PDF file that I have, where we have a person that I actually have worked with. His brother is a medical doctor, so therefore all his tests are being done by them. And I think this is going to be right. No, here we go. Okay. And here you go. This is from a GI map test. And I'm trying to block out the person's actual, names. And here's that secretory immunoglobulin A, and his is low at 210, and the normal is 510 to 2010. So what I'm trying to show you right now with secretory immunoglobulin A is that that is going to go back to all the saliva in the body, and it has to have good and bad bacteria. The disappointing point that I'm going to bring up is that when people say, oh, I did Bella for a month, I'm good. And I'm a total matang. And then they get their next stress event, or they get their next bad news from somebody, or they get something else. Amy, all I did was literally Google SIgA because I was looking for it, but I'm going to put it there. Y'all just let me navigate these multiple screens that are behind each other. And to be honest with you, it's not that I pulled any, one person. It was just, she was the one who showed up. And that's the article that I ended up doing. So really what I was doing was just looking at a way in which that I actually taught this to my people on Thursdays. And we went deeper into discussing it. We went deeper into why the SIgA, why it's so low in everybody right now. Why is this all happening? So with that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my PDF file right now. And nope, that's not it. Okay. So what I want to do is go back into this book we have spoke about on our morning calls. Holly did an amazing job at actually making a PDF of it now. And it is just the part in which that when the Feelings Buried Alive book, where we talk about the way in which that we mentally loop information around. So what I have been doing is I've taught a class, and I'm going to teach it over and over, and it's actually communication, the language of the heart. The reason in which that we would want to learn to communicate differently is because we need to communicate differently to ourselves first and foremost. if we don't start working towards communicating to ourselves and understanding our thinking versus our feeling, and being able to loop it around and be able to stay in both hemispheres when we're communicating, that brings the biggest amount of balance of knowing that I am duality. When we are duality, we are bad and we are evil. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that about themselves, but at the end of the day, we can all do harm. And when we marry that we are both, and we can actually loop it around in our communication styles, then we are being able to see it from different mindsets that no longer causes stress in our life. If you want to stop stressing, then change your perception of what you're seeing. Change the words that you are speaking to yourself about. So one of my favorite little sheets that Holly did recently for me, I literally started this just in my notes on my phone. And every time I would see something, I would like, oh my God, I love this. And it was about, instead of I'm sorry, thank you. Because shame is where a lot of energetic frequencies with people stay. And instead of being in shame, we would like the opposite to be gratitude. If we don't know what we're seeking as an opposite, then therefore we don't know where we're going, and we won't know how to be able to loop something around. So I want you to constantly, when you think about this, the thinking and the feeling, that we're literally changing the script into a new pattern. So possibly instead of saying, I'm sorry for talking so much. Wow, I must have needed to vent. Thanks for listening. You see, this is putting an outward projection and cutting self down, versus this one comes from your needs. What do I need? So then the other one is, I'm sorry for being so emotional, would be, I know my emotions are high. I appreciate you holding space. I am sorry for being a burden. I'm so thankful for your support these days. Do you see how, look at how I could take this figure 8 and I could loop this around, and this is how the brain would actually no longer perceive the words as stress. And it's okay for you to say the first one to yourself. I'm sorry I'm late. Okay, thank you for waiting for me. Thank you for allowing your time to wait for me. I see something's in the chat. Let me go. I'm really making a lot of, you should see all my sheets that we've made this month. And it's all handouts like this because of the simple fact that I want it to be able to be on people's refrigerators. The only thing we can change is our own character. I am sorry I'm late. I did that one, sorry. I'm sorry for taking so long to respond. So anybody who's been texting with me lately or have done any kind of texting, they know that in the text message, I will say, let's keep this dialogue open. Why is this an ended? Is it an open-ended conversation or is it a closed conversation? Because a lot of times when we're navigating an ailment with, let's say, a child, what's going to end up happening is that it's going to be a continuation for the next possible 10 years. Are you keeping that conversation open or are you closing it? It's a one answer and that's it. So I've been so busy. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry I make things so hard. I'm a work in progress. Thanks for having faith in me. Wow, that's a big one, huh? And so here are some of the parts that I just brought in that I found, you know, here and there that we could possibly say or use. I take full responsibility. I take full responsibility is a phrase that can be used to substitute the word sorry. So taking responsibility actually helps to use the word sorry. And because you see, sorry energetically in our body, when we're looking at the word sorry, what it's actually doing is keeping us in the lower 3 levels of an energetic frequency rather than in the higher 4 levels of the energetic frequency. So if you want to stay at a state of shame, blame, or I forgot what the other one is, then you would, not want to change these words, because sorry is keeping you at guilt, shame, blame, or guilt. Thank you. That's my word right there. And those 3 will always keep our immune system compromised. I'm going to repeat that. Shame, blame, or guilt will always keep our immune system compromised. I take full responsibility is a phrase that can be used to substitute the word sorry, and especially means that you acknowledge the mistake and take responsibility for it. So you're not putting blame. The minute we say something to project it onto someone else, we are not living with our accountability. Then we go into regretful. I should not have, oops, excuse me, thank you. Is now a good time for a quick question? So that's something I will do with people who I know when I approach them or talk to them or send a text message out that are busy. I literally will ask, is now a good time for a question? That sounds like it was really hard for you. So that's actually helping with empathy. Thanks for pointing that out. What else is worth knowing here? So let's say somebody, and I don't like to use the word constructive criticism, or we heard words that didn't settle with us. Instead of blocking it quickly, how can we evaluate and say, let me not take it personal, but let me hear more from this person. So you would actually say to them, thanks for pointing that out. What else is worth knowing here? That will actually lead you to help to understand the person and where their point of view or their state is coming from. Then we go into your patience is requested and greatly appreciated. And I'm going to tell you, I've had to use that with a person in the point that, like, how do I want to say it? What happened? Their brain went into something totally different than the point that I was trying to make. But guess what? They went into what I call the trigger state that sets them off with a lot of people. And all I did was the way in which I asked a question was a trigger state for that person. So knowing someone's trigger state is going to be very beneficial. This is from Tony Robinson's first book, Unlimited Power, or I say first book. I'm thinking it was his first book that I've had for a very, very long time. However, as I want to get to know myself and what type of learner I am. So therefore I can be a better student and a better teacher. The teacher part of me will help to be able to show people that everybody perceives and hears information differently. And that's okay. That's the biggest part I want everybody to know. It's okay. So we have a generic standpoint that we would say something. For instance, I love this one. Life is good. My husband's favorite saying, life is good. So from a visual standpoint, my mental image of life is sparkling and clear. From an auditory, life is in a perfect harmony. From a kinesthetic, so touchy-feely, life feels warm and wonderful. And in this warm and wonderful, if a person drinks iced coffee versus warm coffee, a person who drinks iced coffee will always see life as hard, cold. So if you think about expansion and contraction, when it is warm, when it is cold, things come in and contract. And when it is warm, things expand. Cold people will always stay at the bottom of the vortex. Whereas if a person is having a warm cup of coffee, they will turn around and they will see life as warm. Do y'all understand and see what I just showed you guys in the way in which that you are consulting with people and you are working with people? The way they are saying it, they are actually showing you and telling you which learning style that they are. A person that keeps saying, but you don't see it, you don't understand my ADD, or you don't see me. And so I turned around, and with that person, I kept coming from just visual words, because she's an artist and an ADD person. And guess what happened? She absolutely shifted, and her nervous system came down, and she felt heard by me by the time our consultation finished. And I'm going to tell you, I would have lost that person. That person would have not stayed with me. Let's see, we have some things in the chat I need to catch up on. Love this information. Are we able to sign up for the communication class? What I can do is I can go ahead and we can do the Zoom call, because the PowerPoints are all built, and y'all would take what's called the first level. So what I just showed y'all is how I go into the more advanced levels, but you have, when we know the basics, it builds upon all of these different tools that I have used throughout life. So the work that I'm showing you right now is the work that I did when I was 21 years old. And when you think that you're going to, how I want to say that, we're going to take something and we're going to bring it to the forefront quickly, sometimes it might take 35 years till you are ready to actually be able to teach the information. Okay. Dialogue, questions, feedback, tidbits. We can, let me stop recording so nobody's